The
There we go. It changes. My streaming program crashes. There we are. Now the audio is coming through. hmm Photoshop didn't open a picked clipping file. Wow. Photoshop should have. There are several other graphic image editors that are nice. The problem with Photoshop was always it was $700. um, well, yeah, that's another issue. So it was $700 a piece or part of the Creative Suite. A few years ago, God, how long? It's been what, 5, 6 years ago now. They discontinued the Creative Suite and went to the Creative Cloud, which was a monthly subscription. And so now you're paying $30 a month for the whole Creative Suite. Or they had a photography bundle that was $10 a month for Photoshop and Lightroom, which a lot of photographers liked using. Um, and it's not compatible with any modern computer in the last 4 or 5 years. What OS are you running? What OS are you running? Right, which 10? It does not run at all on 1014. It crashes a lot on 1013. It's only officially compatible with like 1010 or 1011. So if you have a modern machine, it may not work. And it's still very hard to find, even on Adobe's website, to buy Creative Suite 6. So that's a big problem too. So one of the things Adobe has done, so their Creative Cloud, $10 a month gives you Photoshop and Lightroom. Let me see if I can find it. And some eagle-eyed blog posters discovered the other day that on some people were getting different prices. Yeah, so I'm still seeing $9.99 a month. Some people were seeing a price of $19.99 a month. And so the panic and furor went around the internet that Adobe was raising their photography plan to $20 a month. They already did, so a single app is $20 a month, and all the apps is $53 a month to get the whole Creative Cloud, which was a $2,500 package. That was their master suite. So you get all the photo editing, video editing, text titling, website editing, and all the cool stuff. Um, and typically, when you're doing that, you have a company behind you that pays for all of that. Right. One of the advantages of Creative Cloud is that every time a new version comes out, um, you get the new version for free. And what we had seen over the years is because the Creative Suite cost so much, um, most people didn't upgrade. Um, and even the basic suite, they had their design suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, was like $1,200. And so most people would skip every 2 or 3 years. And now Adobe didn't like that because it meant you didn't give them money. So if you work out this $50 a month, that works out to be about the every 2 years that Adobe released a new version that you would have had to pay for, and then people weren't. So Adobe says most people, well, all the people that subscribe love it because they subscribe, right? A lot of people don't like it because it costs too much. So there are alternative applications. Adobe makes one of their own called Photoshop Elements, which is $100. Perpetual license is what they now call it, so a one-time license fee. Um, and that does a lot of the stuff that Photoshop itself does, which a lot of people like. $100. They also have Premiere Elements for video editing, but we already have iMovie, and Final Cut is pretty inexpensive for what it does. Final Cut used to be a $2,000 or $3,000 program. Now it's what, $299 for if you need more than what iMovie does. There's also Graphic Converter, which is where I started from a while ago. Graphic Converter is another one that started out as a graphic converter. It can read just about anything and convert it into just about anything else. And it has batch conversion abilities. So if someone gives you a folder full of BMP files, which is a Windows bitmap, and you want to convert them into JPEG files for your website, you don't want to have to open and save as, open and save as, and open and save as. You can feed Graphic Converter a folder file. I think Photoshop has a batch conversion too, but that's expensive. So Graphic Converter is very popular. It's shareware and $40 or 35 euros, to whatever the conversion works out better for you. There's also Pixelmator and Acorn. There's a really nice website called Alternative 2, and you can put in a commercial program, and it will find alternatives to that. There's always the GIMP, the Graphic Image Manipulation Program, or the GNU Image Manipulation Program. It'll find, so let me limit it to Macintosh. It will find alternatives to virtually every commercial program, or even non-commercial programs. Affinity Photo, I have heard some amazing things about Affinity Photo, and they have an iPhone version that's almost as full-featured as a desktop version. So if you're looking for a program to do something, and the commercial ones you're finding cost too much, it's really easy to find a different version on Alternative 2 to find something new. And many of them are free. Most of them are shareware, and you get a lot of power out of these small programs because they know they're competing with Photoshop, the big killer giant. Yes, we're seeing, because the iPad is getting more powerful now, that companies are making versions of their program for iOS. And let me switch this to iPad. And even Adobe has come out with a lot of their own programs for iPad. And they have announced, I don't know if they've shipped yet, that they are doing a full Photoshop for iPad Pro. Because of the power the iPad Pro has, in many cases it's more powerful than the low-end computers, which is interesting because the high-end iPad is $2,000. The low-end laptop is only $1,000. So you can pay more for an iPad than you can for a computer, which is very crazy. But it's in many cases it's a lot more powerful than a low-end computer. Yep. And especially with graphics and photos and creative work like that, having the touch screen to do your work on and a pencil or stylus is really, really handy. In fact, there are programs. Charlie, what was that program that you used when your laptop screen died? Duet, yes. Yeah. Yep. There are several programs available to let you use your iPad as an extra screen or second screen on your computer. And with most of the computers now being able to handle multiple screens already, it's kind of neat to have the iPad there as a screen too. And I'm not sure, is this the one that lets you do the touch? Yeah. So you can actually use your iPad as a graphics tablet, similar to the Wake. Nope. I just wondered. Sometimes you spell it wrong and you get crazy things. You can use it like a graphics tablet, like the Wacom tablets. And so tablets have been very common in the graphic community for a long time, where you have a tablet that you draw on with your pen, and then you see what you're drawing on your computer screen. So it's kind of disconnected. So what they also have is their Cintiq line of let's look at the 22-inch. They have a 22-inch monitor with a high-quality touch screen built in, and so now you actually draw on your monitor, and you can see how it works, or how it looks right on the monitor. So it's not you're drawing over here and seeing over here. Even if you put your graphics pad right next to your computer, there's still that disconnect about you're drawing in one place and seeing the drawing in the other place. So the Cintiq tablets have always been amazingly sought after, and as we'll see here in a moment, they have an amazing price. $1,700 for the 22-inch version. Okay. Yeah, and especially so the 13-inch is only $800 now. So that's iPad price. Yeah, an iPad Pro with a pencil. It starts in that $800 line. But even now, the standard iPad, $329 with the pencil, or the new iPad Air with the 10.5-inch screen can use the pencil now too. So you have a lot of options for just sketching and drawing and graphics. Even the old iPads you could use a stylus with. It wasn't as fine-tipped as the pencils are, but it still worked fine. And being able to use the iPad you probably have with your computer as a way to use it as a graphics tablet for drawing. I just noticed you have a ViewSonic shirt on. Yeah, your old ViewSonic monitors. Yep, I love those parrots. Um, the new Air, you can use the Apple Pencil on. The new 9.7-inch standard iPad from 2017, you can use the pencil on. Before that, it was only the iPad Pro could use the pencil. But there were other companies that made styluses. In fact, we sell a lot of them at our shop, that you could use the stylus instead of your finger. So my fingertip gets numb when I use my iPad screen a lot. Even when I use the trackpad on my laptop a lot, my fingers will get numb. And so that's one way I know I've been working too hard. Yeah, the Kensington crayon is very popular. Yeah. So a lot of the styluses look like pens. There we are, I think. In fact, there even are. In fact, I have one with me. That's not it. A lot of companies made a stylus. Show me a picture of it. A lot of companies made a stylus that in the end of a pen. So one end of the pen is the ink, and the other end of the pen is a stylus. How about Kensington crayon? Maybe it's not Kensington. Maybe it's Logitech iPad. Let's do iPad crayon stylus. And let's see how good. Yes. There we are. It is Logitech. That's why I couldn't find it at Kensington. So Kensington and Logitech are two of the biggest peripheral companies. So if mice and keyboards and trackpads and stylus, they probably make them. So the crayon is a little fatter than a regular pen, and a lot of people liked it because of that as well. In our office, we have the LU pen that we sell, which is an aluminum pen. It's more of a stubby, not the full length of a pencil. It's like half the length of a pencil, but it is thicker, and a lot of people like that grip better than having a little thin size. Anyone have the Apple Pencil, even with them? So the Apple Pencil is very thin like a pencil. The Apple Pencil 2 is a little bit thicker, and it's hexagonal, so when you set it down on your desk, it doesn't roll away. But devices that work with the Apple Pencil won't work with Apple Pencil 2, and vice versa. The Apple Pencil 2 devices won't work with an Apple Pencil. It's crazy. So you have to know which pencil to get when you get an iPad. And there was just an announcement, tech note the other day. If you have an Apple Pencil 2 charging on your iPad Pro, it may interfere with your car dongle. So your car may not be able to lock or unlock if your dongle is too close to your charging pencil. So there's enough EM coming out of that wireless charger to interfere with the EM coming out of your dongle. Yep. Yeah. Well, what was the other one that was bad? Oh, Apple currently doesn't sell their own monitor. There's rumors of a 6K monitor coming with the new Mac Pro. So for a while they were selling at the Apple stores. They were pushing an LG 5K display. to go along with the Mac Pro. Because the irony is they sell the super high-end computer that they don't have a monitor for because they discontinued their own monitors. So they were selling this LG monitor, and there was a big problem for a while where if you had your airport base station too close to your LG monitor, probably too old, I won't find that, then it would it affected both. So the monitor would flicker with EM interference, and your wireless would cut in and out with interference. So the monitor wasn't shielded enough, and it was overwhelming the airport. So the solution at the time was to move your airport farther away from your monitor. Yeah, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth interference. And one of the things we used to do in the real olden days, remember the TRS-80? It didn't have an audio card on it. So if you wanted audio, we used to write games for it, you'd put a detuned AM radio next to it, and there was no electromagnetic shielding in this computer. And so it would blow away radios that were next to it. We couldn't even have them in the same room as our Apple IIs and even our compacts, because as soon as you turn on the computer, it just put out so much interference, all the other CRTs went nuts. So when we were writing games, we figured out what we could put on the screen to make what sound come out of the radio just by the EM interference, and so we could make explosions in our games. It was kind of fun. The good old days of programming. Yeah, that probably by putting more shielding in the monitor. But what's interesting is that, let me see if Apple has it on their store now. Apple doesn't, or stopped recommending displays. Let me see who they have on their monitor now. Yeah, they still have that 5K monitor, but it's $1,300 for a 5K monitor. And the 4K monitors aren't that much cheaper, and they're not as prevalent as you would have expected. There aren't that many companies even making a 4K monitor yet. Partly because customers don't want 4K monitors. They don't want to pay the extra price of a 4K monitor. Right, and it went back to the early difference between SD, standard def, and high def televisions, that you could only notice the high def if the screen was 40 inches or more, or you only sat a foot from it. But with a computer monitor, you probably are sitting a foot or two from it. So now with televisions, they're going from high def to 4K. So 4K is actually 4 high def monitors, 4,000 pixels across. And when Apple came out with their iMac, it's got a 5K monitor, because 5K is better than 4K. It's 1K better. But actually for video editing, you can be editing a 4K video and still have room for your palettes and menus. And so we see a lot in Hollywood, a lot of movies are being now shot in 4K or higher, so that they can be shown in 4K digital cinemas. And then when they sell them, you now have a choice about DVD, Blu-ray, standard def, or Blu-ray 4K. Or Blu-ray, well, most Blu-rays already high def. Blu-ray 4K, and so they can charge you more for 4K. I did read that Peter Jackson shot Lord of the Rings in 8K, so that he can, as soon as 8K TVs start becoming common, he can re-release them at another price and start getting paid again. And on The Hobbit, they shot it in 24K, I think it was, and they shot a lot of it in 3D. So they were using RED cameras, which is a really high-end video camera. But because they were doing it in 3D, they needed 2 cameras to shoot twice. But the cameras were too big to fit the interocular distance between your eyes. So they had to have one camera shooting forward and one camera shooting down through a mirror. So then the 2 lenses were the same distance apart as your eyes. So there were pictures. I wonder if I can find it. There were pictures online of the people carrying around these giant camera rigs on their shoulders with the dual camera setup. And I'm not going to find, well, So he bought 30 new red. So here's one camera rig with the two lenses. So as televisions get better and better, the content is ready for them. That's always been the catch-22, that high def televisions caught on pretty quickly, because standard def to high def was a very noticeable difference, even at smaller screen sizes. High def to 4K hasn't really caught on as much because there isn't much 4K content, but now the price differential, in fact, I was just at Walmart the other day, Father's Day is coming up, 65-inch 4K HDR, three HDMI ports, $4.99, TCL and Hisense. So TCL is a pretty big brand. So $500 for a 65-inch 4K TV. How long did we have our TV? We've had our TV for about 5 years. It was a Father's Day gift. It was a 55-inch HD TV was $500. So the TVs are getting much better, much cheaper. The price differential between HD and 4K is almost negligible. It's almost hard to buy an HD TV anymore. They're almost all 4K. Yep. Yeah, Costco. I think Walmart had one similar, 75-inch HD 4K. I think no, it was a 70-inch at Walmart for $800. So it's almost not worth getting that big a TV now. Move up in steps. So we moved up from a 32-inch. I think we had a 40-inch. Then we had the 55-inch. And so every 2 or 3 years, because TVs don't last that long anymore, you're getting a better television at the same or lower price than you paid back then. Remember, when I was a kid, my parents got a TV and me the same month. And that TV lasted 18 years. I can still remember when it finally broke down and we threw it out. The garbage man, this was before we did electronics recycling, the garbage man had this big grin on his face when he saw the TV sitting there in the garbage. So I helped him throw it in the back of the truck, and with this big grin on his face, he hit the squish lever, and the thing went, whoa, whoa. As the CRT breached, the whole metal garbage truck just reverberated and echoed. It was the best noise ever. But yeah, so TVs don't last that long anymore. And one of the things we've seen in the computer world, in the PC side, a lot of PC laptops now have 4K monitors. But at 13-inch, 15-inch, it's almost, why have a 4K monitor at that small a screen? What Apple has done, and what a lot of the industry is now doing too, with their high definition, you get. No, I don't want to interrupt my screen there. You get Pro Screen Resolution. I type really bad, and Google still finds it. I love Google. So a 13-inch screen has 2560 by 1600 pixels, so that's 2.5K. And what Apple does, and let me get to the 2018 Mac, 2560 by 1600, 2880 by 1800, so they're getting more and more pixels on them. So it's almost a 3K monitor. They are using multiple screen pixels to create one image dot. So we used to have dots per inch and pixels per inch were the same thing. But now the Macs are using 4 pixels to make one dot. So everything is sharper and crisper, and that's what Apple calls the Retina screen. So that the dots on the screen are made up of 4 pixels, and they're so sharp and so fine that your eye usually can't see them as individual dots unless you get really, really close. And so that is the amazing thing we're seeing now. And if you try to run your computer, let me see if I can find it at the native resolution. Try to run your computer at the native resolution. The text on screen is so small, it's impossible to read. And we have to do it every now and then. In fact, what they've started doing now, a lot of people would run their screens at a lower resolution to make the images bigger, but when they got bigger, it got fuzzier. Now with the Retina screens, you can choose whether you want larger text or more space. and that it doesn't get as fuzzy because there's more pixels behind the image to generate that image. So if you have a Retina screen, you can go into your display control panel and decide how much screen space you want versus how much pixel resolution you want. And some people like a lot of screen, some people like bigger text, and you've got that middle of the road. There's a good picture. You've got that middle of the road option to use if you want. Not new window, new tab. And so there's an interesting little picture here. Let me see, can I zoom in on it? So if you run it at the full 2880 by 1800, look how tiny your dock icons are, how tiny the menu icons are. In fact, you almost can't even read it on the giant projector. But you get a lot of screen space. And so it's nice that you now have that choice. Especially in the graphics world, it was a very common thing to have 2, maybe 3 monitors. So you had more screen space to do your stuff. Yep. Yep, you can plug into your television and use your big screen TV, because we all have most people have big screen TVs now. When you used to plug into your TV with standard definition, it was 480 lines, no matter how big your screen was. So people were getting 30 or 40-inch screens, and you still only had 480 lines. So you got a bigger image, not better quality. I remember we had an enhanced definition TV. I think I had 600 lines on the TV. It would have been a multiple of 480. So that it had more lines than the TV image did, so it did look a little better. Now that we've got HD, that's 1920 by 1080, which is the same sort of thing. An HD monitor only shows 1920 by 1080 no matter what the screen size is, but there's more pixels there for you. And then your 4K monitor is 4,000 by, depends on how weaselly they are, 3840 by 2160. So now you've got 4K or you've got full 4K, which is actually 4,000 by 2,000. You've got so many more pixels on the screen that in addition to getting a bigger image, you're also getting more image. So you can see more windows on your screen. You can have multiple overlapping windows. So you can have your web window, your mail window, your word processing window all open at once without needing to overlap them. And this is common still on the iMacs, where you got a 20 or 27-inch monitor. So you have a lot of screen space to do that with. But laptops are much more prevalent than desktops now, and so it's hard to do that with your desktop monitor, with your laptop monitor, because it's so relatively small. So that it's nice to be able to connect to your TV, either through a cable. So like we've got a wire running from the computer to the projector. So the projector you can think of as being a big screen TV. In fact, projectors have died. Because big screen TVs are now, in many cases, cheaper than a projector was, and you don't have to have a dark room, you don't have to have a white wall, so it's a lot easier now with a television. Or you can use the Apple TV box to wirelessly send the image from your computer or your phone or your tablet up to the television, and that's really convenient to be able to do that, to not have a wire stringing across your living room. And now we're starting to see other television companies, see if I can find it. They announced it at CES, and then many companies are starting to do it now. You can get the Apple TV functionality, probably AirPlay, on third-party television. So AirPlay is the technology they use for wirelessly sending your video through the air, and Apple, in a surprise to many people, started licensing the AirPlay technology. Get out of the way, add. Here we are. So now newer third-party televisions are going to have AirPlay in them, so you'll be able to AirPlay from your device to the TV without having a separate Apple TV box. There were rumors for years, it was Gene Munster's favorite rumor, that Apple was going to make their own television. Not many computer people believed that, because the TV world is such a commodity. There's like the Sony super high-end televisions that are really expensive and last forever, and then there's everyone else. And so Apple is always at that high end that is really extra quality, but average people don't want that. They want cheaper. So now being able to so we always expected Apple was going to license the Apple TV box to put inside a television, and that's sort of what they're doing now. It won't have all the TV services, but it will have the AirPlay stuff. So that's going to be kind of neat as well. Yeah. Yes, newer televisions are going to have AirPlay. Let me see if this had a list of the brands. Mm-hmm. Okay. Apps. What TVs? There's probably, I might be able to find a list somewhere of what TVs have announced they're doing it. Some of the TVs, yes, can be software updated to add AirPlay services. And there we are. So Samsung, LG, Sony, and Vizio are some of the sets. And if you have a new enough television, a year or two old, there may be a firmware update available. Your TV is really a computer. Pardon? Announced. I don't know if available. So that will be another line item on the boxes that Apple TV and streaming will be available. Now Google is doing the same thing with their Chromecast feature. A lot of TVs have Chromecast already built in. Google started licensing that a long time before Apple did. And Roku has AirPlay streaming. Roku is one of the only third-party companies that has had AirPlay streaming for a while. I always remember that when I went to your house, Rick, that the AirPlay showed up on your Roku. Oh, okay, cool. So we're getting the ability to add AirPlay and Apple TV to non-Apple televisions. And part of that is from Apple's Apple TV Plus service that they're going to be announcing later this fall, which is a way to cut television from the cable company and get television on the internet. So similar to YouTube channels and Amazon channels and Sling, Hulu, a lot of third-party companies are now selling traditional TV channels rather than Spectrum TV. Apple is going to start doing that now too. If you're in the market for a new TV, you might want to wait a little bit, unless you already have an Apple TV. We expect the Apple TV box itself will have more features and probably faster. That's always been one of the criticisms of smart TVs, is they generally have a weaker processor in them than the Apple TV's got, like the A12 Bionic or some ridiculously fast chip in it. So navigating through the menus on your smart TV is often fairly slow. But yeah, if you're looking at a new TV and don't already have an Apple TV for it, then you might want to wait a little bit to see what features are added. And as these new TVs start getting released this fall, it's going to drive down the prices of the other TVs. So maybe wait for your Black Friday sales. Although there's a website that tracks those, and a lot of Black Friday sales aren't really that good. They lower the prices, or raise the prices ahead of time so they can announce things on sale. In fact, there's a website called Thrifter, that will, yes, I did mean Thrifter. It will track deals and tell you if it's a good deal or not. You know, you might see a $10 off sale. Well, yeah, but last week it was $50 off. Wait, and next week it'll be $30 off. So you might want to wait a bit. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we probably should break. We're going to come back and have George do his presentation. We've got refreshments in the back. We accept donations for refreshments. What do we have tonight, Shirley? Cookies and brownies, you said? Cookies and brownies. Looks like there's some soda and coffee back there. And then I like your screen coffee thing there. I think one of the favorite ones I saw once was Snow White holding up the Apple logo. And I'm really annoyed the Apple logo doesn't glow anymore. They took off the light. That was just the glare, yeah. Yep. So the Apple logo. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I can take dues for you as well. Do you want to give me the presentation, or are you going to just wing it on your computer? Okay. So I got to think of how to do this. So I have to turn on Air Server. And for those of you watching on the stream, we'll be right back later. yeah, but can crossover see any of your Mac drives as a letter?
No, I don't think so.
Check just to make sure, because that could be affected. Yeah. I think that it is. That's full screen. That's as far as I can get. In fact, it's too big on the projector on the pad now. Can I switch? I can't switch out of this again. Come on, exit out of this. There it is. We are live. We are. It was full screen. Do I want to zoom in? What is the zoom key? Command Shift Z. Nope, that's either zoom on or off. And if I make it too big, then so the YouTube doesn't get it. The text looks okay. Yeah, I can choose whether it's squeezed or I can make it too big or too small. Want to go forward and see what it looks like? Because it looks like it is set to as wide as it can go. I can make it smaller, but that is full screen. All right, well, let's try that. Oh, thanks. Alrighty, so we've got George. He's going to tell us what makes a good photo. No, we can't. Well, unless we turn all the lights off. Yeah, you just. Oh, it's on, but the pad is down. No, go ahead. There we are.
Okay, everybody hear me back there okay? Okay, tighten this up. Okay, I started a little bit of this last month, but when it comes down to, we're looking at photos, and everybody's taking pictures on their devices, on their iPhones, whatever. But what really makes a good photo? Okay, and whoop, come on, little baby. Okay, are you doing a photo just for yourself? Are you doing the photo for the kids? Are you doing it for, like, coming up for a demonstration? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it for profit? Okay, give you an example. Okay.
Just a second. Let me turn off this other camera.
Okay, there's a picture. Now you look at this picture and you're saying, "Whoa, wait a minute." Now this is Prince William. Okay. Now you're saying, "Wait a minute." The photographer taking this picture. What is he taking this picture for? Okay, he's not taking it for himself, obviously. Okay, and what picture did they use? Of course, they're going to look at this. You're going to do it for either to embarrass the monarchy or to do something or just to sell people for their newspapers. Is that the act? Does anybody think that this is a real picture? Oh yeah, that's a real picture. Let's look at this one. Okay, here is the one that was taken from the one photographer, another photographer. The aspect ratio is off a little bit, but this is taken from another photographer.
How different cultures, well, different perspectives on that picture, but how different cultures count. See, in the U.S. we would say 3, but in Europe it's 3.
Yes. And the first one was sold, I think, to the Sun, London Sun, which is similar to our National Enquirer or whatever, and just to sell newspapers. It's pretty scroungy. But anyway, but we all know that we can trust what we see, right? I mean, we can trust what we see because there's nothing wrong. You see it, so it must exist, okay? Or come on a little bit further. Well, we know that this is real because we can see it, okay? We know this is real, okay? Everything is perception. Okay, if we look at this, it's hard to see up here, but there's red eye. Red eye is when you take a picture from your camera and the flash goes into the eyeball, bounces around, and you get the blood cells coming up, and that's what it looks like. And I'm in photos now. If you look at photos, and I'm saying, okay, let me do an edit on the bottom of the screen or over here on the side, you see there's on the side, point it right out over here. You see that little looks like an eye? Okay, if I click on that little eye and I come up to the individual eye and I'm getting rid of all of that red eye. Just by clicking on it, red eye is gone, okay? You want to make things a little bit easier. Click edit again. And on edit up here, you see this little magic wand type tool. I click on that, red eye is gone. So it's a fast way to do a quick edit, and this is within Photos. Okay? You don't need to go into Photoshop and big time. This is within Photos itself.
And you used to have to go into the eyeball and actually paint out the red.
Yes.
And they've made that even better.
Yep. Okay. A friend of mine, he had, he's a photographer. He's in Apple Care with Apple right now. But an old customer of his came up with this photo, and he said, I went to Photoshop. They wanted about $180, no guarantees, 50% up front, et cetera. Take him about a week. He said, anything you can do with this? So my friend looked at this. This is a real photo, by the way. And I say real, like one of those shoebox photos, okay? And he sent it to me. He said, I didn't want to touch it, but what do you think? How long do you think it would take? I said, well, let me take a look at this. So remember last week I went into the software. I went to some software programs. One of them, Retouch, and another one, 2 or 3 of them. And I said, let me use just the programs that I have on the iPad. Let me look at this. You're looking at an old Retouch program like this. The first thing I said was, I'm going to do it easy. I want to get just this gray stuff. I'm not going to touch the faces. Just let me go into here. Bingo. I got rid of this just using Retouch, the simple program that I showed you last week. Now that I did that, and I said, well, what do I want to do now? I'm going to go into these big ripped parts down here. Let me do the ripped parts first. I finished that, and then I did the faces last. That took about 35 minutes on the software that I showed you last week. And this software is relatively inexpensive software, okay? Sometimes $2, $3. The big one is like $4.95 or something. So relatively inexpensive software. We're doing what normally I would have done. I would have worked on this software in Photoshop. Okay, in Photoshop, it probably would have took me about maybe a little bit longer in Photoshop. But that's not bad for 35 minutes of work. He was happy. He gave it to his customer. The customer was happy.
And you can only charge him $50.
Well, believe it or not, I said no. Hey, he was a good friend of mine. He sent me back a little something, and he said, "This is for your wife." We went out to lunch. Not bad. Okay, now if you do too much, Yoda is not going to look realistic. There's no way around it. He doesn't look right. Okay. Now, there's something in photography called the rule of thirds. I'm going to go into that in just a little bit longer. I'll say rule of thirds, what that's about. I look at this rabbit over here. It's a nice rabbit. That's cute. Where does my eyes go? I'm going over here. I look at the rabbit. I'm saying, that's not, it draws my eyes over there. The rabbit being in center. The only time you want a picture in the center is if women's magazines, Vogue and Mademoiselle, these things, Well, excuse me, dear, but that's what it is. And they usually have the model in the center of the cover, and on the sides, all these things. You know, my husband beat me 20 times. That's over here, and how to lose 50 pounds. That's on the right side, and the woman is in the middle. The model that doesn't have any pores. We know what we're talking about. Okay, so I said, well, how would I change this? All I did, I just cropped it. I deleted that little dandelion, whatever, and I moved I cropped this so that the rabbit is over a little bit to the right. So my eye is not drawn to the middle. I wanted to give a little bit balance, something different. Okay, that's what I did for repairing. Next is zooming in. Zooming in. You want to get a good zoom. Whatever camera you have, get used to using the zoom lens. I had some dental surgery, so bear with me, kids. I didn't want to not show up tonight. Okay, I just love these birds. They're beautiful. I used to watch these all the time, circling over the lake, diving down, getting the fish and things like that. Just a beautiful. I got this with the zoom lens. This was probably about 40 feet up in the air. I zoomed in, just so statuesque. Around the corner from me, there was a Sam's, one of the Sam's shops. And you can see down here, here's the little car. These things, I don't know how tall they are. However, no, 50, 70 feet, I don't know. But boy, they were up there. And up on top, up here, they were building this one little baby was building a nest on top of the lights. Okay? It's great. You're going to build a nest. You got the heat coming up, incubates the eggs. You don't have to worry about it. And I watched it for about a week or so, and then I noticed little heads popping up. Okay? Maybe they were in the nest before, but now they started looking over the edge. I went home, got the camera, braced myself, said there was no motion, because when you're zooming out, that lens is zooming out. Any motion that you have back here is going to be amplified by a factor of 10 or 20 out here. No motion here. Out here it's going to be waving. So I braced my arms like this against my body, and I zoomed out, and I leaned against the pole to steady it. When I zoomed in, this is what I had at full zoom.
Wow.
Now you can see, there's the mama, and there's the little baby down here. The one down here, this one has his mouth open. They're probably about ready to leave the nest. Look at the nest. Look at the size of those damn things. I mean, we're not talking branches. We're starting to talk wood now, you know.
Do you know what level zoom that was?
Pardon?
Do you know what level zoom that was on the camera?
This was about 20.
Really?
About 20x. Even at yeah, I'm surprised.
Thud.
I have a 34, but even at 20, I was surprised it came out that good.
I've been looking at a new camera, and so super zoom or ultra zoom is now a feature on cameras. I found a Panasonic 60x zoom.
Yeah. And the price is what I did with my 20 and my 34,
Yeah.
a Canon and a Nikon.
Under $300. 60x zoom, and it's like 20 megapixels.
Yes. So that
Father's
really,
Day's coming, honey.
What a price difference. So for 300, 3.25.
Actually, remember, Mother's Day is this weekend. Everyone else remember that now.
And if you look at Amazon, you get those prices instead of $350 or $399, they're down to $299. So you get real good deals on a camera. In this case here, I stepped out of my house. When I stepped out of my house again, I had my camera. And up here, you can see there's 5 white ibis, the little, I call them Florida chickens, with the big, long beak, okay? And they usually going up and down the lawns, not on mine, but everybody else's. And here's 5 of them here and 2 of them over here. So I positioned myself to get contrast. I wanted to get something like the V here, and here's the birds in the middle of the V. I wanted this to look good. Then I zoomed in. When I zoomed in, this is what I got. This is, again,
Wow.
with the 20, just the 20 zoom. And you see, even at 20 zoom, I was braced myself, and there's very little motion here on these. You can look the size of these bees. I mean, they love that lawn. they get down deep. They get the grubs and things like this.
And these little tripods are pretty inexpensive too.
Yes. And then I went to the next, the one on the roof. And if I zoom in on this one, you can see there was motion. That's my fault. There was motion on this one. It's not as clear. You know, if they're standing on one leg, they're kind of really just.
They're asleep.
I know. If they lift up that leg, they fall down. I know. I heard that one. Here's one when I was on a trip. I loved the architecture. If I look, the architecture of these little balconies, the apartment balconies, and I went, that's beautiful. And so I zoomed in a little, and I'm looking at, here's this lady, she's in this place, and you know, no matter what the weather is, she just pulls it down. If it's raining, she's fine, and she's looking at all the tourists going by and stuff like that. And I said, well, let me zoom. What I did, I went like this with my hand, tried to get her attention. And I finally got her attention. When I got her attention, I zoomed in again. Now she's looking at me going, what? You know, what? I can look at her now. You're crazy, you know, crazy tourist. But I love the art. Look at this. You don't find stuff like this anymore. Going all the way up on the top of the balcony. Look at this little thing right here. They even have a little downspout for whatever water collects in here. It doesn't rust. It just comes out that little downspout. And all, just the craftsmanship, the old world craftsmanship. Pardon? This was in the island of Madeira. Madeira, I played. And it was just beautiful craftsmanship. And look at what she had here. There's two little chairs. So I could just envision the story behind the photo is what's important. The story. What are you trying to tell with the picture? If it's just a picture, throw it away. It doesn't mean anything. I'm looking at this. I'm looking. She has a chair here, a chair here. Here's a coffee cup over here. I can imagine coming in with her neighbors. They sit down. They talk about the kids or whatever, having a cup of coffee. It starts to rain. She pulls the little window down. They're chatting no matter the weather. And to me, this told a story, the whole story in one picture. And that's what photos are really about, telling that picture. And my little thing, this is my little alligator. Anyway, where I live, a little lake, little community, we had our own lake. And I went down and I saw this puppy coming up, and I went down the slope towards the water, and Mama was out there, the big Mama. Mama was about 8 foot, about an 8-foot gator. I zoomed in, got this picture, and got my little butt out before Mama got excited. And that was the baby. The baby's only about a foot, maybe about a foot long. But I like this with the color. And the color really shows up good on a big screen, a good high-def screen. Okay, jumping over to zoom, coming over to emotive, okay? When my wife's dad passed away, he always told her, he said, I'm always going to look out for you. And he was just a nice guy. And I had a picture of him kind of looking down somewhere, and then I put the clouds behind it, did that myself, and I printed that on good matte paper, put a nice little whiteboard. My wife loved that because that was her dad. He's always going to be looking out for her. So that meant a lot to her. Oh, bad Sarah, my great Dan. This was one of her bad pictures. Today she's 17 years old. I still send her pictures like this, just to let her know, no matter how old you get, the past is going to live with you. So be careful what you do today, because 10 years from now, somebody's going to pull this on you. Okay, I don't know if you remember this picture. Steve McCurdy, this was the best-selling National Geographic issue of all time. Nothing compares to this. 10, 15 years later, people were still asking for reprints, and they wanted permission to reprint this cover. The story behind that cover, those eyes, they haunt you, okay? She was in her early teens in Afghanistan. This is at the time when the Russians were bombing everybody, the Hind helicopters rocketing everybody. and her three sisters and her brother. The mother and dad said, leave, leave. They left at night and they traveled on foot to Pakistan. During the interim, they were hiding at night in caves because behind helicopters, they were massive helicopters. They were rocketing the caves. So they were hiding all the way to Pakistan. And in 1984, I think it was 87, whatever. And when Steve McNerney was over there in Pakistan, he took her picture, and he said she has haunting eyes. And when it went into National Geographic, this was the cover. It was almost everybody said this is the cover. Within 2 years, Russia pulled out. When Russia was pulling out, her and her sisters and brothers, they walked back to their home in Afghanistan. And within a couple of months of coming back, her parents married her off at the age of 16, an arranged marriage. So she was 16. And just recently, National Geographic, they were saying, whatever happened? A lot of people said, whatever happened? And yeah.
And in 2010.
And they said, let's find out. So they sent Steve back, and he went, and where is she? And people, what do they know? They showed pictures. And some people remembered that said, well, she went this way and towards whatever. And they tracked her back. And along the way, they hired an ophthalmologist because they want, if we find it, we want to make sure that it's the same woman. So they tracked her down to the house. And this was the house where they got her. And they looked at the eye. And beside the ophthalmologist, he did iris scans. And along the nose here, there's like a birthmark over here and a little mark down here. And it's the same in, come on. It's the same in this woman. The eyes. He turned to the eyes and said, that is her.
Time did not treat her well.
The same birthmark here, and down here, it was the same birthmark over here. So it was the same woman. But they did all that research, and they got the picture. Her brother said, in all the time that he has known, and she's in her 30s now, in all the time that I have known her, she smiled once in her life. The day she was married, has never smiled before, never smiled since. Well, in their custom, the Afghan custom, once you're married, your face is covered, and the only one that can see you smile, if you smile, would be your husband. In this case, the husband allowed them to take her picture based on the whole world wanted to see it, wanted to see her. Nobody in the village, of course, and of course something went across the hands too, because, there's poverty. But I love that picture.
I found a picture they did from 2002 of
her
holding the magazine when they went back and found. And then there was an article that she got arrested.
Excellent article. If you get a chance, look at the article.
She got arrested in Pakistan with false papers.
What I
in
like
2010.
with photos, you want to get as natural a shot as possible. I don't like posed shots because they look false. My wife was on one side of the cruise ship talking to her two sisters. I was on the other side. I saw this. I zoomed in right away. I got the picture. I like the natural picture. It's natural, and I like that one. And come on, little baby. Come on. Okay, this was something that I enjoyed. They rented a cabana. The three sisters and the three husbands, they rented one of these little cabanas on the island thing. And they had 6 of these things reserved. And I went, I laid down at that thing and I said, this is it. Your worries are gone. No phones, no iPad, no nothing. It's just for the rest of the day, you're going to do nothing. Jump in the water, whatever, and come back to this. If it's too hot, go inside with the AC. I liked it because it was just like this signpost. They put this signpost up because the reasoning is your troubles are 1,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away. So those two pictures mean a lot. Anytime I'm like a little bit hyper, like when I go home tonight, I'm still hyper, and I'm going to take out that picture with the cabana and the seats. It's a way for me to calm down. When we were leaving this little place, when we were leaving this little island, whatever we were on, one of these little things, Princess K's, whatever, I like this picture because it told me that 2/3 water. Remember I told you the rule of thirds. 2/3 and 1/3. That's a very important thing. 2/3 here is water, 1/3 sky, and then the orange in the middle. But when I zoomed in on my sister-in-law, she was very, very relaxed. She was going away from that, and she was living in the moment at this. You can see the froth on the side here of the waves that indicates motion. It's telling you we're in motion, okay? And then for her, I did what I call the Hollywood glow, a little software trick that I did. If you look in, if I got really close to this, you see she has no pores. The same thing that they do for the ladies' magazines. You look really close, they have no pores, okay? It's all photoshopped, okay? And I kind of did that. Her hair was blowing in the wind. I wanted that, and I wanted that little bit of a glow, and it showed in her hair with the wind, and she's just sitting there in the moment. So I like this for what that was. The three sisters afterwards, they were posed. And I said, come on, squeeze in. Well, you can see my wife and her sister here, they kind of fit well, okay? The other sister, I said, come on, squeeze in tighter. And there you go. She didn't fit. And all of a sudden, all of them, they just broke out in laughter. And I went, that's what I want, a natural shot. I grabbed that one. And the same one over here, sisters again, the one on the right, like, hey, what you got there, you know? And I like the natural part of a photo. Again, the three sisters down here, their birth name was Diornellis, and I did a little trick here. This sign was up here someplace, so in Photoshop, I just copied it and brought it down a little. But these are the three sisters pointing up to their birth name, Diornellis. Their great-great-great-grandfather, way back when, he was kind of a rogue in town, whatever. Nobody knew how many children he had, but there were a lot. And we don't know if they named the street after him in honor of, you know, that, or in shame. I'm not sure. But anyway, so it shows their Diornellis name. Okay, jumping, because I know I want to get through this. And composition. I talked about the rule of thirds. Can you see this grid here? You see the grid? Okay. Photographers, this rule of third is very important for photographers. Now, sometimes you want the picture in the middle, but the rule is try to keep the picture on this side, up or lower. You remember when I showed you 2/3 water, 1/3 sky, because that's where the center of attention was down here. So I did 2/3 and 1/3. You'll see in other photos, I'm using the rule of thirds a lot. So you want to keep the center, any one of these four corners here, okay? Try to, except in this case. Remember I said rules are meant to be broken. I got a sandhill crane when I'm in Florida. Right now I'm 3 feet away from there. They're wild birds. And I'm 3 feet away. I was on my knees. And there was this and her mate, and there were 3 little ones. So I'm very close to just have my eye poked out here. So I said, okay, rule of thirds, I'm going to move a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. They were getting too nervous. A car was coming down the street. I said, the heck with it, take the picture. It is what you have. And sometimes you have to live with that. Over here, the same thing. You see, she's moving, I'm moving. I don't want to get this white part here in front of a white house because you're going to lose it. I tried to get it where there was a dark background. I did what I could. You take what you can get.
And the projector isn't really showing the colors off very well. You got to see it on one of our screens.
Yeah.
They look
the colors really show up. It's kind of hard, but
yeah, the orange eye and the red.
Yeah. Oh, that orange. The orange eye is looking at you like this, and it never blinked. I knew I was in trouble at that point, so I just said, I'll take what I can get. And here, again, you see the leg is up. They're moving, and they're moving quite fast. I'm moving kind of fast, and I said, I'll take what I can get because they're looking at me right here. So they're ready to take flight. I said, that's it. This was one of my favorite shots. I'm on board the boat. The boat is moving. the seagull is moving, and I'm moving, of course, because you're on the moving boat. And I zoomed in, and I said, I want to try to get this, and I got it. Now, you can see on your screen, okay, I got the sun right on the leading edge of the wing here. It's just on the leading edge. And if you look at it on a high-res screen or a higher-res screen, it really comes out. I zoomed in. If you zoom in a little bit more, look at the trailing edge of the wing. You can see the sun just coming right on the trailing edge of the wing, just showing the individual feathers. I just love this photo. It came out really well. This is one that I printed on a good matte paper. I tried to get, come on, baby. There you go. Tried to get another one. This one was coming, zooming right past me this way, and I just had the camera, and I moved the camera, zap, tried to take a moving picture. I got it, but it wasn't as good as the other one. This one I enjoyed. I got this one in. I saw the ship was moving. I saw the bird moving this way. I tried to move the camera to where I thought the bird was going to be and snapped it. So I didn't have motion on the camera. And I got it pretty good. I got that one pretty good. On the higher res screen, it really comes out looking good. Okay, and my child. And again, composing this shot, I was here in this little, whatever it is, a patio or something, and I saw this little catamaran was coming to my right. I saw him coming this way. I tried to position myself where you try to get this, the angle, the 90 degrees angle, up and down, and then I got the V. And I said, position the camera where I can get the catamaran coming in, right in that V. And I waited for him to come into where I wanted him to be when I took the shot. So I'm composing the shot to where it's something that I would like.
And it almost looks like that blue tent. It's an awning on the beach,
Yeah.
but it looks like it's a sunk ship.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking of taking it out, and I said, nah, I really should have. And again, the motion again. Remember, 2/3, 1/3. 2/3, almost 1/3, okay? And the froth here is showing motion. It's giving you the idea in here. Something is moving, okay? What's moving? And I left a little bit of this in, just a little bit of this little thing. Okay, this is moving. 2/3, 1/3, you can see the high tide, low tide of the rocks, and you see the trees, okay? Motion again, okay? This one, again, just showing you rule of thirds. 2/3, 1/3. That's all that was for. My little babies, okay? And again, you notice 2/3, 1/3. Okay? What I'm looking at here is the composition of the rocks, the color of the rocks, the play of light and shadow. Okay? You have the light, you have the shadow here. Okay? And the next picture, same thing. Okay, yeah, we got these little guys here. But I'm looking at the different kind of rocks. You have this rock, you have like the limestone kind of rock, you have a granite, you have the play of light and shadow. Light and shadow. Your eye really jumps on that. Here, again, I did a little bit different. Instead of 2/3, 1/3, I did an angle with this. Okay? 2/3, 1/3, maybe half and half, whatever. And just a little, look at that, the granite rocks, the limestone rocks. It's just like the jumble of rocks together, the interplay of light and dark, the shadows. And this little guy just sitting here looking out with his head over the water like, I am iguana, okay? I am iguana. It's that look that he had that, oh, well. And the same thing here. This was mostly all rock, a little bit of water, but again, composition, different rocks, light, play of light and shadow, okay? And this one was very unique. It looks like this cruise ship is stuck in the woods something, but if you look down here, look down here. Come on, zoom, see if I can zoom this little puppy out. Okay, zoom this guy out. Okay, look at this. You see this guy on a sailboat. He's on a little dinghy down here. This is his sailboat. Look at the size of that sail. And he's on this thing. Now, look at him in comparison to, it's the same water level. Water's not going to change, okay? You can see how big that cruise ship is. It looks like it's emerging out of the woods. And I said, I'll never see that kind of a picture again. So I grabbed it. And that was the Freedom of the Seas. At the time, this was probably the second or the third largest cruise ship in the world at the time. But if you look at the cruise ship, nobody's on it. Everybody's going through all the tourist spots. It's just sitting there, and you can tell by the smoke coming through the smokestack up here. Okay, you know, the engines are on. Probably in about another 2 hours, they're going to be boarding and they're gone again. Okay, again, angles. I'm looking at angles with this. Okay, here's the angle this way, straight up and down the shadows. Rule of thirds again. 2/3, 1/3. Okay, you notice the 1/3 down here. This is this guy. Up here, this was deep blue water. This here is shallow water. So 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, if you want to look at it that way. And the colors of that little pump boat is good. Shadows again. Here there was four cruise ships. These two are docked on this pier. These two are docked in that pier. If you look at, it's hard to see. This is really dark. This is like almost dark. I like the angles. Straight horizon angles, 2, 2. I moved down a little bit further. I wanted to see if I can get the angles of all four ships kind of like on an angle, like a diagonal, okay? And on the way down there, I came across this. I went through in here. I'm looking, the angles here, okay? Angles, composition. I just love the way this was. There's another $1 million little yacht in here, the pilot boat, and the colors I like. This is the shot I was going for. You notice? 2/3, 1/3. Rule of thirds. And again, what's the important thing here? If I did all sky, actually the sun would have made the picture a little bit more blasé. It would have whitened the picture. So I prefer to have this. And then there's a little sun glare off a piece of railing or something coming up here, like a little lens flare. I like that.
And you got to think the owners of those two yachts thought they were pretty hot.
Yeah. And then this guy comes in like, hey, I'm the second cruise ship in the world. Hey, hello.
Get out of the way, tiny.
Yeah. You want to move, please, peasant. Move. Now, what I would have done with this over here. This is what I should have done with this. Now, look at this little puppy here. What should I have done? Remove those cranes, right? If I was really smart and I really wanted that to be a perfect picture, I'd get rid of those cranes. And you can do that with a little software program, $1.99 retouch. I could have got rid of that like that. Another thing I might have done, I might have gotten rid of this little craft here, whatever that is, like a little service boat or something. I could have got rid of that. I also could have got rid of this thing here, nothing to it. Pop, and the buoys are gone. So I really could have made this picture a lot better, but I didn't. Same thing with this. I took a picture of a courthouse. If you look at this, I just like 3 trees on the left, 1 tree on the right. I could have moved a little bit to the right and had even trees, but that didn't do it for me. I wanted something a little bit out of balance. Okay? And whoops, sorry. And again, I like this. This was one that I just like the architecture. Look at the symmetry of the glass blocks, okay? And the symmetry of that. And over here, I took the picture where I got the tree, part of the tree coming out to give the green coming in. And this orange color, the ochre orange color of this building to go with the symmetry over here. And I just like this picture for the colors. And something up here, I moved over for the next shot, and I got this. And I like this a lot. I just love the architecture. It's kind of like a Moorish, like an Arabic kind of windows, you know. I like that until you zoom in, and I'm looking at this screen, and I say, wait a minute, Home Depot, plastic, you know, the window right here. That's like, oh, man, you know, I almost wanted to delete this and put this one over here so that I didn't have to look at it, you know. But if you really look close, you look up here and you're going to see this up in the corner. You're going to see this patchwork. I'd rather not see it. I don't even know why I'm showing it to you because it kind of spoils the mood of the picture. Okay.
It gives it character.
Huh?
It gives it character.
Discouraging, yeah. Come on. And there we go. Yeah, the three sisters and the three sisters, four boats. I wanted this just for what it is. And then there's those damn cranes again, okay?
And
this guy over here, it was nothing. I could have went in to retouch, got rid of the cranes, got rid of this guy, and then it would have been the picture that I wanted, except for her fingers over here. But it would have been the picture that I wanted to get. This one here, same place, same town. If I looked at this, come on, zoom this. There you go. I like this picture. If this plant was up, standing up straight, I wouldn't have taken it. I liked it because it was leaning to the side, and the things were coming down, the shadows, the play of light and shadow, okay? And here's the leaves showing over here, and the white thing up here, the vein, whatever. And it also shows the ship out here. I like this picture for what it was. And then I did, on the edges of the picture, it's hard to see on the screen, but I did a little bit of a vignette around the sides. The vignette, there's a little bit of a shading on the edge to bring your eyes into the picture. Because this is the subject right here.
And
not this. This is the subject. And the vignette on the side is to bring your eyes in.
And you almost don't see the lady up
Pardon?
there. And you almost don't see the lady up there.
Yeah, she wanted to know what the heck I'm doing in there. Okay, this one I took a real long distance. I had that zoom lens out right to the end, okay? I was so far back I could barely see them, these ships. And I said, all right, that's cool, just two big sailboats. Until when I was going in, looking at the post-editing on this, I zoomed in, look at this ship, the Presidente Light. I say, wait, I heard that someplace. Look at the name of the ship down here. You can see it. That's the Canada II. Look at the other ship. This is the Racing Yacht, Stars and Stripes. That day, they were having one of their races, and I just happened to catch it, not knowing what the heck it was, but I liked the picture, and there it was. They were having one of the races. I think this is one of the judges or referees. The other thing that I didn't do, look at that horizon. What do you see on the horizon? The horizon is off about 1.5 to 2 degrees. So being a perfectionist and persnickety, I really should have rotated that just a little to get that. I didn't. Oh, well. And jump into moving this puppy quick, okay? You're looking at just look, the old streets. This was the street in Madeira, up toward the mountains, up on the top is where they grow the Madeira wine. That's big grape country. And this was the old streets. And look at this little thing here, this little door. They have over here the little pool bell. You pull the thing out and the bing, bing, and then they know you're there. I say, my God, I just love this picture. And look at the streets. The streets, all of the streets, the sidewalks, and the square here, it's all hand-laid tile. Every day, those streets are washed. The sidewalks are washed. They wash them every day. It's that tourism, they want to make sure that this is beautiful. This is how they want you to remember it. I've never seen sidewalks as clean and the streets. Okay, this is, again, the street, the town, 2/3, 1/3. You notice up here, this is all the goodies, the mist coming down. Pictures. I'm in a moving bus, crapshoot. You did the best you can, set the camera as fast as you can. Same thing here, as fast as you can. I lucked out with this one. Look at, you see the animals there, they're leading the oxen, whatever. And here's the guy plowing with a hand plow. And here's the women with the buckets of grapes over their shoulders, going to market. One thing I didn't do, I left that one in. Look at Barclays, a Barclays sign. Oh, man, and I let that go. The architecture is just so old-fashioned. It's like unbelievable architecture. The streets, narrow little streets. This town, this is one of the strangest things I've ever seen. You look at the point I was in, one of the few places you're in. The streets to the left are going down. They're going down to the bay. Okay, well, what's the bay? On the right, the streets are going up. And I'm looking at this, and I mean, when I say they're going up, look at these. Look at them. There's cars up here. There's people up here coming down the street. It's like the mountains up and down, unbelievable. And you see, look at all the cranes. There's, oh, come on, baby, the cranes on top of the building. Look at all the construction going on. Cranes all over the place. And this is one of the strangest. I don't know how to describe it.
It's a merman.
It's like a fish and a head, and I remember they live for the sea. Fish is there, one of their main diets. Again, look at all of that. Just the different things that they use. This was in one of the places in the Caribbean, and what they use for materials to build. All the different stones, and these are working shutters, by the way. When the hurricanes come in, they bolt those things down. And you see, here's the door that's closed, and here there's an opening, and this opening goes right through, all the way through to the other side. And this is what it's like inside. You go through, and the main door going into these places is here and here. But this is the entranceway, and all the beams. These things are built to last however long. All these different buildings there. And like we said before, you remember this picture when we were talking about preview. Everything you can do is in here. Exposure, contrast, all of this stuff is fantastic. The tools that you have in this program. You want a little bit of sun, you click temperature, you move this slider just a little bit over, you're going to have a little bit more sun effect coming onto the picture. Okay? And the last thing you do, anytime you do anything at all, anytime you want to do post-editing, you want to mess with the picture, the last thing you do is sharpen. I typically sharpen at 75%, sometimes 60. That's normal. It compensates for what the camera does and what the eye really sees. So the last thing you wanted to do is to do that sharpen. That'll bring out almost everything you want. Okay, and the last thing, I know, before she kicks me out, the last thing, look at that. This was outside, creative. Let's look to creative. All the leather work, reclining nude, I guess, brushwork. This is outside of an artist shop, and they did this. It's all wood. Somebody did it for them. Just beautiful. Remember, we talked once before. When you take a camera, you can do where you can do a pan shot, a pano, okay, and you're going to go from left to right, and usually zoom in a little bit here, zoom in on that, and you're going to see left to right. It's not taking one picture. It's your camera is taking a multitude of pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it overlaps them just a little bit so that when it stitches it together, it'll look good. However, on this one, because it's such a long one, right at this point, right about here, let me zoom in on this, and right up here in the cloud, look at this. The stitching here is not right, okay? You see, look at this. The edge of the cliff drops perfectly sharp. Nature doesn't want to do this, okay? So the stitching is off. Over here, look, stitching is off again. Anytime you see this real sharp drop off, here's stitching is off. If I went and I looked at, it's hard to see because it's subtle, but over here you'd see lines. You'd see lines coming down, lines coming down, lines coming down. So if you wanted to do this perfect, you'd have to go into some editing software, and you can blur a little or copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste with some tools. But you can blur that, and you wouldn't see that sharp difference. And I did one over here. This is one I did individually, a picture, a picture, a picture. I stitched it together, and when I stitch it together, it looks nice and neat. You're not going to see a break in the clouds. What I did see on post-edit, way up here, what in the world is this? It's not an artifact. Something's there. It's not an airplane, and it's not somebody, it's not a balloon, because out here is like 500 or 600 miles of ocean, so it's not a balloon. We know that. So to this day, I still don't know what that is. No idea. So I'm living with that, saying, what in the world is that thing?
Looks like there's a shark down there too.
Huh?
It looked like there was a shark fin sticking up out of the water on the other.
Which one?
In front of the boat trail.
That?
Oh, that's a person.
Yeah. Down here, this is like a buoy for ships.
Oh,
that's a buoy, and this is these ski doos, 2 ski doos coming in. And you can do panel the other way. You can do a vertical panel, and if you look at this, let's look at this guy down here. Okay, way down at the bottom. Look at the size of this tray. Look at this guy. And now watch as we go up. Watch as we go up. We're going up. Whoa. Here's another guy. You can hardly see it. There's another guy in yellow. Now let's continue going up. Look, up, 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 up. Here he is. The last guy is up here holding on to the rope. Who in the world? Look at the size of this. So you can do a pan this way as well as doing a pan the other way. Okay? And yeah, now this is just what I took of my wife, and now I'm going from here. I want to go to a comic book. Put it into a comic book picture, okay? This took 10 seconds, 10 or 15 seconds using Photo Lab. And I'm saying, all right, so I went from a nice, serious picture. I went to fun picture, and I'm going to go to a library, to a museum. So I went from here to here to here, and I'm changing the mood 180%, and it took me 15 seconds, and just for fun. And look at this. Here, look at the surface tension. This is a woman swimming. Look at the surface tension of the water. Is this a perfect shot? The surface tension of the water. Here's an action shot. The saddle, she didn't have the saddle cinched tight. The horse meant to make a quarter, and she's going off the end in a saddle. And this is a real picture. That's not Photoshop. Okay.
Did you get
another
the
one.
next instant of that? Did you get the next instant of that picture?
Yeah, I don't know where that hoof went or where she wound up. Here's, look, football. Here's the guy here. The defense, they just smacked this guy, hit him so hard his helmet came off. And here's the quarterback waiting to throw the ball. And it's just like the helmet is just standing in space. So it's a perfect action shot, okay? I mean, newspapers love these shots. I mean, they pay you big money for it. Another action shot, just about done there. You move it in just such a way that that fit that, her eyes, and you move the camera, and he did a perfect shot. I took this little one. I love going to dragons and all the old stuff. A friend of mine, he got his little picture. If you remember last month, I did a little thing using the programs, and I used his head, and I cut him out using one of the software programs, and I blocked everything and just used his head, and I saved that I could paste someplace else. So here, I just pasted him here, hiding behind a rock, okay? His eyes are looking up that way, and this is, that's a Utah raptor, one of the big, nasty guys. If you look at their claws down there, nasty. Anyway, I had my grandkids. My grandkids love talking about these guys. And I said, you know, do you ever imagine if you could go back in time to when these things, when they were roaming the earth, would you like to see all the different ones? And they go, yeah. And I said, but what if you woke up tomorrow and you heard clack, 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 clack. You heard something coming out, and you went in the other room and you saw that. Now what? And then you turn around and you see this guy coming at you. Or you run in your computer room and here they're all over your computer table. And you try to get out, he's going to eat you. You try to get out and the door opens up and here's Mama coming in. Mama's coming in and you've had it. And the kids go, whoa. The next thing I know, they start reading about the dinosaurs. They're reading about the Jurassic. They're reading about, all because of, you sit down and you show them a picture. And a picture leads into so many words, and it goes into all different things. So taking a good picture and having a reason for taking it. Don't just take it and throw it away. Take it for a reason. And That's it, kids. There's my Donald Duck trying to take a picture, and Chip and Dale are all over his butt. Thanks for bearing with me. I know it's 25 up. Thanks.
Well, thank you, George. That was really exciting.
Well,
Did you submit any of your photos to that Apple photo thing they did recently?
no, I never did. Never did.
They had a presentation where they were shot on iPhone.
Yeah, that's with the iPhone, not with the iPad. Yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed that.
All right, let's switch this back around. Okay, which screen is it? Let's secure AOL. All right, that screen is what we're looking for. Alrighty, so I want to thank you all for coming tonight. What else? Did we have anything else planned for now? And we're just about running out of time, too. Yep. This coming Saturday, the 11th, 1 o'clock, we'll have our green apples at Bob Hoey's house, right? Yeah. Q&A starts about 3 o'clock when I get there after Soundbites. Soundbites on the air from 12 to 2 on member-supported Jazz 90.1 FM. And then next week is our board meeting at the Irondequoit United Church of Christ. If you're interested in seeing how the club works behind the scenes, interested in helping out with the club, you're more than welcome to come there as well. Next meeting is June, and we'll hopefully be able to post what we're going to be talking about at the June meeting. And don't forget holiday shopping. Go to smile.amazon.com. Set Apple Cider as your Smile charity. If you can use the link on our shopping page, shopping discounts for Amazon, and we get a little kickback from Amazon as a charity, and helps us out as well. So any of your shopping on Amazon, and thank you all for coming. We'll see you all next month.